Okay, so let's talk about the Stranger Things finale. Was it the epic conclusion we were all hoping for, or was it kind of a massive letdown? Today, we're going to deconstruct a really popular and pretty tough critique that says the ending was all about feelings and not enough about a story that actually made sense. Let's get into it.
And we're diving right in with the quote that really sets the tone. The memes were better than the final product. Wow, that's a pretty brutal take, right? It basically says that what the fans created online was more entertaining and more satisfying than the actual show they were watching.
So the first big point of this critique is what they call a finale of feelings. And the central argument is simple. The showrunners prioritized big emotional moments over everything else, including a plot that holds together. Instead of giving us something bold or surprising, this review claims the ending was just safe. A total paint-by-numbers conclusion. It followed a predictable path, which was a real disappointment for anyone who is hoping for some depth or, answers to the giant mysteries they've been teasing for years. And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, get this. The epilogue was 45 minutes long. 45 minutes. The reviewer calls it waffle. In a 2-hour, world-ending finale, they spent almost half of it on long, drawn-out goodbyes instead of actually resolving the plot. And this feeling of weird priorities leads us straight to the next major point of the critique, the problem of the empty mystery box. This is the idea that the show's entire method of storytelling, dropping clues and secrets, ultimately just failed to deliver.
So you know what mystery box storytelling is, right? You keep the audience hooked with a ton of unanswered questions. But this review argues that the creators used it as a crutch. They essentially outsourced the hard work of storytelling to the fans, letting them spin these amazing complex theories online.
And this right here really shows the disconnect. On one hand, you had the fans, who were expecting this rich, complex lore, where every clue mattered, all leading to this mind-blowing payoff. But what this review says we actually got, a simple plot, a bunch of clues that meant nothing, and a final reveal that just fizzled.
This quote from the critique just nails it. The show built up this huge expectation that something incredible was right around the corner. It relied on you, the audience, to imagine a much better story in your head. And in the end, it just didn't deliver on that promise.
All right, let's get into what really frustrated this critic. The sheer volume of unanswered questions and massive plot holes the finale just left hanging. For starters, what in the world happened to the Demobats? They kill Eddie, this huge, tragic, heroic moment, and then they just vanish. Poof, gone. They're never seen or even mentioned again, which leaves this gaping hole in the story. And then there's this one. Why was Vecna's army of Demogorgons totally missing from the final battle? In his own house. It's the big showdown. It's like getting to the final boss in a video game and he's just standing there alone in his throne room with no minions to fight. It makes no sense.
And this one is a straight-up contradiction of the show's own rules. They'd already established this deep connection between Will and the Upside Down. According to the reviewer, the creators just offered up some weak excuses in interviews after the fact, which kind of suggests they were just patching up plot holes on the fly.
So it wasn't just the plot that had issues. This critique argues that the characters themselves started acting in ways that felt illogical, all just to serve these big emotional scenes that didn't feel earned.
I mean, take Nancy's plan. The review puts it perfectly. Nancy didn't make herself bait, she just made everyone else's life harder. It was supposed to be this heroic moment, but if you actually stop and think about it, the plan was terrible and put everyone else in way more danger.
And that brings us to the biggest character problem of all, according to this critique. 11. The show tries to frame her story as this personal metaphor for growing up and choosing her own freedom, which is a nice idea, I guess, but it completely ignores the fact that the world is ending and she's the only person who can stop it.
So from this perspective, her big, heroic escape wasn't heroic at all. It was actually a profoundly selfish act. This quote really drives it home. The next time a portal opens, 11 is responsible for the apocalypse. Oof. And the story itself seems to completely gloss over that little detail.
So, why did the finale feel so hollow to this critic? Well, the review proposes a really interesting framework for storytelling, one that it claims Stranger Things built completely upside down.
Okay, so think of a good story like a pyramid. At the bottom, the foundation, you have the idea, the big what if. Then, built on that foundation, you get the people, the characters who are shaped by that idea. And only at the very top, as a result of everything below it, do you get the feelings, the genuine emotions created by the characters' actions. The core criticism here is that Stranger Things flipped this pyramid on its head. It started at the top. It decided we want the audience to feel sad in this scene, or we want them to cheer here. And then it forced the characters and the plot into those moments, whether it made sense or not. The feelings weren't earned by the story.
And this quote, cited from another critic, just sums it all up. The finale was full of stuff. Big explosions, slow-motion shots, sad music, but it lacked the substance, that solid foundation, to leave any real lasting impact.
So, to wrap up the main points of this critique, the final verdict is that the finale was a bloated, often incoherent collection of moments. It relied on manipulating your emotions, failed to solve its own mysteries, and in the end, it felt more like an obligation to finish the series than an inspired conclusion.
Which leaves us with this final, very provocative question that sits at the heart of this whole analysis. Did the show's creators mistake fan theories for good writing? Can you really just create a mystery box and rely on your audience's creativity to do the heavy lifting for you? It's definitely something to think about.